Hello, and welcome to Senior Code Review Buddy. My name is Chris, and today I'm going to share 6 tips to make your meetings better. I want to start off by saying that I think meetings can be a great use of time. They can provide a lot of value to everyone involved and increase productivity. I also think that most meetings are absolutely a waste of time. The value they provide isn't worth the time they consume, not even close. While I was at one of my previous jobs, I read a great book called Death by Meeting. It was a quick read and had a lot of clear, actionable advice. I can highly recommend it. And after reading it, I was actually motivated to give a presentation about how to run more effective meetings at my company. And I wanted to share some of those tips with you today. One of the things that probably surprised me the most about these tips is that, relatively speaking, they are pretty simple and easy to understand ideas. Now, that doesn't mean they'll be easy to execute, but I think it'd be worth your effort to try. And with that, let's dive into these tips. The first tip is a simple one. Every meeting should have a clear agenda. This agenda should be in some shared and known location, maybe a Google Doc or just the calendar event itself. But when the meeting starts, everyone should know what you're going to be talking about that day. To start, this agenda can just be a bullet point list of the topics that will be covered. And as everyone gets used to that, it can get more detailed to meet the group's needs. For example, it could list an owner for each topic or say how long will be spent on each topic. But to start, just focus on having a clear agenda so that everyone is aware of what you want to talk about. This will help ensure the meeting has a clear direction and that it covers what needs to be covered. And if you're lucky, will sometimes help you end the meeting early if you've finished all the agenda items and you still have some time left. Now that we've got an agenda, if there aren't any agenda items, cancel the meeting. If someone disagrees with canceling the meeting, that's fine, but they need to add an item to the agenda. There needs to be a clear reason for everyone to gather together. If no one can write down an agenda item, that meeting isn't likely to be meaningful, and you're all better off using that time for other stuff. So we've got an agenda with some important points to discuss, and we all show up, and we begin with the first point, which is a status update from someone. So they talk for 5 minutes. And then we go to the next point, which is another status update from someone else. And they talk for 10 minutes. And this goes on until the end of the meeting, just people giving status updates and talking. Was this a good meeting? I doubt it. I bet you probably were bored and didn't pay much attention. Generally, having someone give a status update isn't a good use of meeting time because it's not interactive. Meetings are good when they have discussions that leverage the fact that we've got all of these people together and we can interact right now. Instead, status updates should be shared before the meeting and everyone can consume that data at their own pace. Then we can use the meeting to have a discussion about the data. We can raise questions about it. We can have follow-up discussions about it. But meetings like this that aren't just status updates tend to be more interactive, interesting, and useful. Now that our meeting is filled with interesting discussions and not just status updates, we should be taking some notes. And I don't mean individually, I mean that as a group, there should be a shared record of notes. There should be an agreed upon note taker for every meeting, and this position should be rotated around. Don't just always make it the junior most person or the newest person on the team. Similar to the agenda, you can start off with a very basic note structure and increase the details as needed. At a minimum though, I think all meeting notes should contain all of the decisions that were made in the meeting and why those decisions were made. Make it easy for people to understand and remember what decisions you made in the meeting and why. It can be useful for people that didn't go to the meeting, and it can be useful down the line. Also, by writing it down, you'll reduce the chance that different people have different understandings of the meeting, either in terms of what was agreed upon or why. Just reduce the risk for miscommunication. At this point, only the people that need to be involved in the meeting should be in the meeting. Large meetings generally suck. They are challenging to schedule and they cost a lot of time and energy because you've just got so many people involved. One trick I personally use to determine if a meeting is too large is to try and pay attention and see what percentage of people at the meeting didn't talk during the meeting. I've been in a lot of meetings where a high percentage of people didn't talk, and I wonder, did they need to be here? And the answer is usually no. If someone was at a meeting and didn't talk, that means they didn't contribute directly to the meeting. If they hadn't been there, the meeting probably would have been the exact same. So why were they at the meeting? Usually I've found that people go to that meeting because they wanted to stay in the loop or be up to date with what's going on. But if status updates are getting shared outside of the meeting and the meeting has notes about what's discussed in the meeting, they should be able to stay up to date without going to the meeting. So in this case, they should probably stop going to the meeting. It saves them time and makes the meeting a little easier to schedule. If in the future there was an agenda item that they would be needed for, they could be explicitly added to that meeting. So by reducing silent meeting participants, meeting rooms should be easier to schedule and waste less time, as those folks can do other stuff they're not stuck in a meeting they're maybe not even paying attention to. But it is very important to have meeting notes that are shared, as this shouldn't be an excuse to cut people out of the information loop. This is about saving time, not controlling information. And now, my final tip. As the meeting is ending, the group should agree on any action items that were created. Each action item should have a clear criteria, owner, and due date. Could be when the next meeting happens, could be some other time. This should be made clear to the whole group and agreed upon. These action items should also be listed in a shared location, maybe alongside the meeting notes. And similar to the meeting notes, don't just say these, but write them down. By writing them down, you can help reduce any ambiguity and ensure that everyone is fully aligned on what exactly the next steps are, who's agreed to do it, and when it's agreed to happen. Once again, just reduce the risk of miscommunications and ensure your meeting is going to be useful. And there you go. When I've had meetings that have followed all of these tips, they've generally been pretty good. But don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If you look at this list and don't think you can apply all these tips, maybe because you're too junior or because this just isn't how your company works, see if you can apply just one of these tips. Even one of these tips in just one meeting, it can help. And if you want my opinion on which one is the easiest, lowest friction to start with, it's probably having meeting notes. If you're in a meeting that doesn't have notes, you can volunteer to start taking notes of that meeting. And as you hopefully get some buy-in on the value that this note-taking has brought, you can leverage that into adding some of the other tips. You know, oh, I'm taking these notes. It would be really good if we had an agenda ahead of time and I knew what categories we were going to be talking about. You know, make the meeting better for all. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully this gives you some tips on how you can improve your meetings. If you enjoyed it, please consider hitting the like button below and subscribing. If you have any comments, code you'd like me to review, or ideas you'd like me to talk about, please leave a comment below or reach me at chris@seniorcodereviewbuddy.com. Thanks. Have a great day.